Namaste. Hi friends, it's Parvati here with Visionary Veda, bringing you your Vedic Astrology New Moon Report for January 2021. In this report, I'm going to speak a little bit more than just about the new moon, but it's going to be primarily what I'm going to focus on. But I'm also going to talk about a couple of other very important factors that are happening. One of them is known in Vedic astrology as a Kalasarpa yoga, and I'll discuss what that means. And it has a lot of significance for us until after March. All right, and then I'm going to touch on a very important conjunction that's happening on January 20th, which is our inauguration day here in the United States. And it's a very powerful conjunction happening between Mars and Uranus on that day in the sidereal sign of Aries. Okay, it's a very powerful conjunction, and it's going to be sort of aspecting Saturn, Pluto, and other planets that are in Capricorn. And lastly, I'm not going to go too far into it, but I do want to let you know that the planets are slowly piling up in the sidereal sign of Capricorn. So Capricorn is going to be really the focus for the end of January and the beginning of February, but I'll make another report on that. But I am going to talk about it because it is of importance. So all that being said, let's get started. All right, let's get started with this new moon. This new moon is happening in the sidereal sign of Sagittarius, in the very last degrees of Sagittarius, which is almost 29 degrees. Whenever any planet is transiting in the last degrees of a sign, it is known to be called Sandhi. What does that mean? When a planet is Sandhi, basically it's said to be in its old age, right? Because it's lived a full life in whatever sign it's been transiting, and now is getting ready to go and be reborn into the next sign. So because it's in its old age, it doesn't have, and it's considered weak. It doesn't have the power or the Shakti to really like have a full effect. Now this is where this new moon is happening. The moon is conjunct the sun when it's a new moon, and it's still a very fertile time. The new moons are always a fertile time. Now it's happening in the first pada, or the first part of the nakshatra of Uttarashada. Okay, Uttarashada literally means the latter victory. It is symbolized by an elephant's tusk or the front legs of a cot. Okay, the devatas, or the presiding deities of Uttarashada, are known as the Vishvadevas. The Vishvadevas are the 10 main gods that oversee everything. They're the pantheon of the gods, all right? Now, this area of the sky between sidereal Sagittarius and sidereal Capricorn, specifically this nakshatra of Uttarashada, is very, very powerful. Even though the sun and the moon are Sandhi, or they're weak during this new moon, this nakshatra is known as the latter victory. It is lorded over by the sun itself. So seeing as though the sun is in its own nakshatra, it does add a little bit more strength, okay, to this new moon. If you are doing any kind of ritual work around this new moon, it's still a very fertile new moon for you to think on a personal level, what is it that I want to be victorious at? What are the strategic plans that I want to lay in place or put into place to assure my victory in whatever area of life that this nakshatra and these zodiac signs are signifying, right? It depends on your own personal horoscope where these zodiac signs fall, and it shows sort of that area where it would affect you. Now, if you're interested to see where in your personal life these powerful energies are going to be activated, you can contact me at the email below, and I will be happy to schedule you for a Vedic astrology session looking at your personal birth chart. Okay, but moving on, Uttarashada Nakshatra. Now, last year, around March, we had a lot of powerful conjunctions happening in this area of the sky. We had Jupiter conjunct Pluto in the Sagittarius side, and then we had Saturn conjunct Mars on the Capricorn sign of Uttarashada in a special area of the sky inside of Uttarashada called Abhijit. Now, usually Abhijit is known as a hidden nakshatra, and it's not used in mundane astrology like I'm using it now. It's usually used in what's called muhurta, which is timing of events, but I think it's very important to bring up this hidden nakshatra because of all of the planets and all of the conjunctions that we've had around this nakshatra, including the last eclipse, which was very, very close to Abhijit, okay? And Abhijit is known more as a cosmic hidden point of being absolutely victorious. And what I've noticed is when a lot of things have been implemented in the last year or so, around all of this crises, it's happened in this area around Abhijit. So I really feel like this nakshatra is really coming into play with a lot of things that are happening more on a global level. All right. Okay, I kind of lost my train of thought going with that because I was talking about the new moon. So coming back to the new moon, the day after the new moon happening in the first pada of Uttarashada, well, let me just step back for a second. During this new moon in the sidereal sign of Capricorn, we have obviously the sun and the moon, but we also have the planet Venus in, sidereal Sagittarius. In sidereal Capricorn, we have Pluto, which I'm going to include because I think it's of significance for us and what's happening right now, okay? Pluto at 0 degrees Capricorn, Saturn also in Uttarashada, and Jupiter, I believe, has moved into Shravana Nakshatra, and Mercury, which I also believe is in Shravana Nakshatra. All of these planets are going to lend their energies, okay, and their cosmic imprints onto this new moon. And what's happening is all the planets are coming together, and eventually around the end of January, beginning of February, they're all going to sort of pile up in the sign of Capricorn. Now, the sign of Capricorn is a very amazing cosmic sign. I mean, think about it. It's like half fish and half goat, right? So it's a seafaring creature and a far-reaching land creature that has like a lot of bravery to climb to the top, unfettered, unobstructed, just bounding towards the top of that mountain, as well as being able to go down to the depths of the sea. Sagittarius, where the last part of this new moon is happening, the last degrees, symbolizes our hopes, our ideals, our higher wisdom, our higher knowledge, right? So it's sort of the last chance, not the last, but in this cycle, to really think and put into practice what are our ideals, what is the righteous thing to do. Because right after this, both the sun and the moon move into Capricorn. And once the sun and the moon move into Capricorn, we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and do the hard work and not just dream about or think about or debate about what's right, what's righteous, what's just, what's our higher ideals, what are we committed to, right? What are we devoted to? But Now we need to put our money where our mouth is and put those ideals into practice. We have to do the hard work that it takes to implement these things. And this new moon gives us the chance to reflect on what is right for us before the sun moves the very next day into Capricorn, which is known as Makar Sankranti, okay? And this is usually known in India. It's a big celebration, sort of like the solstice, the return towards the light, right? It's when like the light starts shining and the days start getting longer again. Now, the significance of the sun in astrology is what? It is the king, right? It is the leader. The significance of the moon is what? It's our minds, and our minds are dark right now. It's in very close proximity to the planet Pluto, which I know we don't use that much in Vedic astrology, but it is there. It is there in one of the texts, right? It is akin to Mahesh, or Lord Shiva, the destroyer. So things are getting destroyed. And then also in very close proximity to Saturn, which is the establishment. So as you can see, a lot of these themes are very active right now. Jupiter is also in Capricorn, which is justice, the laws, right? And then, of course, the planet Mercury, which is communications. So all of these significations are being affected by the planet Pluto sitting there at 0 degrees Capricorn. And what is the significance of this? Well, if you go back and you look, Capricorn makes a complete cycle and returns back to its original point, wherever it is on the zodiac. It takes 248 years to return to, okay? The last time it was there was 1772, which was the beginning of setting the stage for the American Revolution. And such energy is happening again. It's needless for me to say. We can all see it playing out, all right? The stars are simply the indications or the trigger points for things to get activated in our psyches because it's all connected. We are a part of nature. We are a part of the cosmos. Everything affects everything else. A butterfly's wings flapping affects, gale force winds in Japan, or there's a saying like that, all right? Because we're all connected in this web of life. I just find it fascinating how these planetary indications can just show us so much about what is happening on the world stage, okay? So just to reiterate, a very potent new moon, but still somewhat weak because it's at that Sandhi point happening in Uttarashada. So our minds are fertile to, like, really the last chance in Sagittarius, look at what is right before we have to go and put these ideals into action. Again, look at in your personal life where it is that you would like to implement your ideals for yourself so that you can be victorious, whether it's a discipline or a practice or a study or, changing something about your life, okay? It will be supported. Change is supported with this new moon. So that is about the new moon. Now, what's happening on a greater scale is something known as the Kalasarpa yoga, okay? Kala can mean black, or Kala also means time, right? Like the Kali Yuga, Kali, right? The goddess of darkness, okay? Time, there's many different indications and meanings for the word kala, but in this sense it is Kalasarpa. Sarpa is the snakes, all right? And it means Rahu and Ketu, the north node and the south node, which are both known as serpents. Actually, it was one serpent that has been cut into two pieces. And basically, all of the planets right now, including all of the outer planets, are inside or hemmed in between Rahu and Ketu. So what this does, it puts pressure to these planets, to all the planets, because it's like they've been swallowed by the snake and they are hemmed in between Rahu, which is this very strong desire, right? And Ketu, which is already things that have been victorious in the past or one's past life karmas. So the karmas are pushing on one hand, and then the wanting to like transcend the karmas and put things into action to move forward. Rahu, the desire to move forward, is in the other side. And all of the other planetary indications are sort of being squeezed inside this serpent, if you will. And what's interesting is that all of the planets, except for Mars, all right, and Rahu and Ketu, all of the planets are getting ready, all the inner planets, to have this massive line up in this area of sidereal Capricorn coming in the end of January. Like right now, in the next few days, right now we have Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, Pluto, which I'm going to include, and then we'll have the Sun, right, and the Moon, all in Capricorn. That's a lot of planets in Capricorn. Then Mercury is going to pop out, and then Venus is going to pop in. Okay, still 6 planets, and then Mercury is going to come retrograde in February. I think Mercury goes retrograde January 30th or 31st, somewhere at the end of January. It's going to go back into Capricorn. We're going to have all the planets, inner planets and Pluto, except for Mars, in Capricorn, all right, which again is a very cosmic sign. It's the, seafaring and the landfaring celestial sea goat, right? So it can climb to the highest heights fearlessly, brazenly, right? And it can come from the deepest depths, like the sea serpent. So it's like both the emotional level and the material level. Capricorn is the third Eartha sign. So it's the collective higher octave of the sign of work, the sign of hard work, the sign of government, the sign of established order, the sign of democracy. Saturn, right, is ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules the people, and especially the working class people. So all of these significations are going to be brought to the forefront. We have the Sun, which is our leadership. We have Pluto, which is transformation. We have Saturn, which is the established order. It's the people. We have Jupiter, which is the laws. We have Mercury, which is communication. We have Venus, which is finance, money, right? Wealth. All of this is going to come under a great amount of pressure. In between Rahu and Ketu is going to get squeezed. So we're going to be under a great amount of pressure. And you know what? At the end here, before I sign off, I'm going to tell you or teach you about a breathing exercise, right? That we can utilize during this time of the Kalasarpa yoga. And it's known as Analom Vilom, or alternate nostril breathing. And this balances both sides of the serpent, because the serpent is also known as Rahu and Ketu, but it's also both sides of our nervous systems, okay? Now, Mars is going to be the only planet that's not involved in this, because Mars is going to be 4 houses away. So it's sort of squaring all of these planets in Capricorn, right? In Vedic astrology, we don't usually use the square aspect. So in a way, Mars is going to be supporting, we can say, this planetary pile up. The pile up is starting already, but it's really going to come together in the beginning of January. Before all of this happens, we have on January 20th, we have Inauguration Day in the United States. And on this day, we are going to have Mars exactly conjunct the outer planet Uranus. Okay, now again, I usually don't use the outer planets, but I think that this time it's worth bringing up, because I feel like they really are playing a part in what's happening. Because these planets take a long time to transit, they're going to have a long-term effect. In the video that I did back before all of this started, so in December of 2019, I spoke about how the significance of the planets, what's going to happen in 2020 is going to last for 20 years or more, because Pluto was involved, right? And Pluto takes about 15 to 20 years to transit through a sign, okay? So Uranus is sitting in sidereal Aries, and Mars is also in its own sign of Aries right now, and is going through. So Mars in Aries usually signifies aggression, right? Anger, upheaval. It's a fiery planet in its own sign of the pioneer of leap before you look, right? It's also similar to the goat. It's the symbol of the ram, and it's just going to ramrod its way through. It is exactly conjunct Uranus, which is the planet of like shocking, explosive energy. So this could signify a lot of really intense energies on the 20th. And I mean, like, you don't really need astrology to tell you this, because you can see it happening. But it's so fascinating how the stars actually are showing these energies. They're like helping us to see. I mean, they signify these energies happening. So it's just a warning, like, try and stay balanced through this all. Try and not get too emotionally swept away with all of the craziness happening. The 20th is going to be a pretty intense day. It can also show fires. It can also show eruptions, not only like, eruptions of our like human emotions, but it can show eruptions on a natural level too, like volcanoes or earthquakes or any kind of fiery sudden jolts, right? It could even be like lightning storms, and or like something even crazier than that, like some crazy comet coming at us. I mean, I don't know. It's just like a weather report, so I can't say specifically this is what's going to happen. But seeing as though Mars and Uranus are going to be directly conjunct, it does show something quite aggressive and out of the blue. Some people have asked me if I think that there might be an assassination attempt on that day. The way it looks astrologically, I can say that it could be. I can't say no because of that planetary influence that's happening. I can't say yes for sure that's what's going to happen, but let's just say if something like that does happen, I wouldn't be too surprised based on the planetary energy of that day, okay? Mars is getting closer and closer to Uranus, starting now until that day. Then it's going to conjunct, then it's going to pass, and then it's going to move into the sign of Taurus, okay? And then finally it's going to conjunct Rahu in later February, and finally I think by the second week of March it's going to pass Rahu and it's going to break the Kalasarpa yoga. The only time the Kalasarpa yoga breaks is when a planet passes past Rahu or before Ketu. And when we have the slow moving planets on either side, hemmed in between Rahu and Ketu, usually is when Kalasarpa yoga forms, okay? The moon does break it every month. So for half the month, we have the Kalasarpa yoga broken, and then when the moon passes through again to the other side of Ketu, it goes back into Kalasarpa, but that's getting a little bit technical. So I hope that was helpful. Again, enjoy this new moon. It's the first new moon of 2021. Take it as an opportunity to really look at your ideals and what kind of world do you want to create for your future and the future of your children according to your ideals. And I'm talking about your personal world, okay? Not the world at large, your personal world. And use the new moon to do any kind of intention setting to bring those ideals and what work we need to do to bring those ideals into fruition. All right, and that's what's going to be really powerful to do for this new moon. And before leaving, it's a very simple pranayam or breathing technique, yogic breathing technique that helps us to balance the Ida and the Pingala. It's Analom Vilom. And basically, it's alternate nostril breathing, right? And it balances both sides of our nervous system, which is also symbolized by Rahu and Ketu, or the Ida and the Pingala. Also, the sun channel and the moon channel, or the moon channel, Ida, and the sun channel, the Pingala. Okay? So it's basically breathing in from one nostril, holding, breathing out through the other nostril, and then emptying. Hold for a second while empty, and then breathing in from that nostril, holding, and breathing out from the other. And this pranayam, or this yogic breathing exercise, is known to help balance our nervous system. So if you're feeling any kind of nervous energy around this new moon, or the events that are going to follow this new moon until the full moon, I highly recommend practicing Analom Vilom breathing, and you will see for yourself how much more balanced and centered you feel afterwards. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you for listening and for joining me in this new moon report. I hope it's of benefit. If you would like a reading with me, please feel free to reach me at the email below for a Vedic astrology session. I'd be happy to look at your chart and your transits, and also your dashas and all different techniques that we use in Vedic astrology to help you see how these energies are playing out in your life. All right, so that is going to do it for me today. I wish you all a very happy new moon. Enjoy the life. Don't be afraid. It's going to be all right. Stay balanced, stay centered, and, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Okay. All right. Enjoy the life, my friends. Take care. Namaste. Bye-bye.